We also know that by comparative studies, we're doing pretty well at the 4th grade level. There's a gap in achievement at the 8th grade level and a little bigger one at the 11th grade level, and we know why it is. Because in other countries, kids go to school longer. Because they have uniform national education standards they've developed over decades. Because relative to other people in their countries, they pay the teachers more, especially in science and math. And they constantly retrain them. And because it's something you ought to be proud of, because in America, we have an Americans with Disabilities Education law that guarantees all our kids an equal and appropriate education. We're going to achieve this international level by giving our kids 5 tests in a row for 5 years, and we're going to give the school district here money based on how the kids do on the test. Now, if you wanted to use a test to reach the global standards, you'd pick a hard test with a high score, wouldn't you? And you'd say, I don't care if it takes us 10 years to get there, we'll be gaining them. We'll be gaining them, if that's what you want to do. If you did it, you'd lose all your money and the government couldn't put an education budget together. In other words, you'd be punished for doing what would be in your kid's best interest. If you pick an easy test with a low score, you'll get a check every year, and then the teachers and the principals will still be miserable teaching to the test. And after a few years, the quality of education here will actually go down because you measured yourself in order to get a check and instead of to educate your kids. It doesn't work. Hillary wants to get rid of it. Is what would she do in its place? First, she would help the state with education costs by paying more of the fair share of special education, something we have never done. Second, she has a fund set aside to help recruit, train, and deploy science, math, technology, and language teachers, especially in rural areas and big cities where there's a shortage of them. We're going to have 2 million teachers retire in the next few years just by the aging process. If we help there, then the school districts will be able to keep their music program, their arts program, their education programs at home and do a better job. And on the accountability issue, she basically believes, and she came up with this idea, I think this is really good, based on her service on the Armed Services Committee. Like, I presume most of you think it's time to bring the soldiers home from Iraq. Military in the world. Okay? So let's look at how the Army replicates excellence, because that's really what you're talking about. Suppose you were the commander of 3 brigades in the Army, and 2 of them were lights out at the top in every measure, and in the 3rd one, nobody could hit the broadside of a barn with a rifle from 100 feet. How would you fix the 3rd brigade? Would you give them 5 tests? No. Would you take their money away? No. No. You'd figure out what they were doing right in the first 2 brigades and do it in the 3rd, and you'd keep doing it until all 3 perform. So what Hillary says is, there are schools in America performing at world-class levels. Let's pick 20 elementary, 20 middle, and 20 high schools with representative student bodies by race and income, figure out what they're doing right, and work until we get that in every other school in America. That's much better than No Child Left Behind. I mean all. And not just 4-year colleges, but community colleges, apprenticeship programs, training programs. A lot of our young people don't have to have 4-year college degrees, but they do have to have 2 years of some kind of training after high school if they're going to build our buildings and fix our roads and bridges and take us into tomorrow, and every single one of them needs this kind of help. So, what would she do? Raise the Pell Grants every year to keep up with inflation. Raise the tuition tax credit to $3,500 a year. That would cover the cost of most community college education in America for 2 years. Increase the number of AmeriCorps positions so young people can earn money for college by serving in their communities. Crack down on the abuses of the private student loan companies who are charging some kids up to 20%. A student loan back as a small percentage of their annual income if they get out of college and don't make a lot of money, and let them string out the payments over a longer period of years, but let them know they will never have to drop out of college just because they got to borrow another $10,000. A young American goes out and becomes a public servant. If you're a teacher, a nurse, a police officer, a fireman,